Okay, everybody, thanks for coming today. This is John Lincoln. I'm CEO of Ignite Visibility, and today we're going to be talking about how to win in paid media in 2017. Some really exciting stuff. I have been working with a couple members of our team to put together this deck. They definitely did a lot of the heavy lifting, but I think you're going to walk away today with a lot of great information that's going to be actionable and just a ton of education about all of the exciting new things going on in the paid media space. For me, at this point, it's mind-blowing, just the amount of targeting and details that we're able to do in our paid media campaigns. So get ready for just a ton of education from a couple people who are really good in this space. So if you don't know about Ignite Visibility, just briefly, we're about a 40-person company with about 150 clients. We were recently named the #1 SEO consulting company out of the United States by Clutch.co, #1 pay-per-click company by 10 Best PPCs, and we've won a couple other awards in other areas as well. But the services that we offer are SEO, social media, CRO, content marketing, paid media, email, Amazon, and PR. So we're really a full-service digital marketing agency. We've been one of the fastest growing companies in San Diego over the last 2 years, and we were just recently named the 698th fastest growing company on the Inc. 5000. We also teach 2 digital marketing courses at UC San Diego, so you're welcome to pop into one of those anytime and learn from Alan Bush, who's currently teaching those courses. So here is who we have speaking today. I'm right in the middle. That's me. I'm John, the CEO here at Ignite Visibility, but we also have 2 amazing experts for you, people who I really respect. So the first person is Ryan Cox, who is a senior paid media manager here and a department lead. He works on many of our top clients. Ryan, would you like to say hello and just a bit about what you're covering today?
Sure. Thank you, John. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cox. I've been working in digital marketing for quite a few years now, and the last 2 with Ignite. And I'm very happy to go over some different platforms than you may be used to with LinkedIn, YouTube, and I will also be covering remarketing strategies.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. And then we also have Eythor Westman. So Eythor's a guy I've worked with for, like maybe 6 years now. He is the best at paid search, amazing at paid media in general, and with the emphasis in paid search, managing over $20 million a year in paid search management here at our company, and really kind of leading the charge on that end of the business. Eythor, would you like to say hello and a bit about what you're covering today?
Hi, everybody. Today I'll be covering AdWords search and display, as well as Facebook and programmatic. Overall, there's just been a lot of changes over the last 2 years, both in technology and in the tactics to drive results in these channels. And I'm really excited to share some of that with you here today.
Awesome. So here's an overview of what we're covering. So how to save money with Google AdWords, how to get real revenue out of Facebook, how to drive leads with LinkedIn, why YouTube ads are so popular. I love YouTube ads. Can't wait to talk about that. How you know free marketing is right for you. Why programmatic is taking off. And should you be using the display network, as well as steps to creating your own revenue driving strategy. But before we get started, I feel like it's really important to always take a step back and think to yourself, as we're going through each of these individual points, what are your overall revenue and lead goals? And who's your customer? And what are the triggers that are going to allow you to get that customer engaged in your advertising? And where does the customer journey begin for that product and service, and where does it end? And if you can kind of create a map online of where all these potential things would happen, you can establish potential revenue streams and basically the quality of those revenue streams when you're looking at each of these individual advertising options. So make sure you keep that in mind as we're going through this educational process. Also, you want to keep in mind, where does the customer convert and what does the specific journey look like from the ad to the landing page, to the funnel, to the checkout process, and then even getting that customer re-engaged in potentially another product or service. So try to think holistically about the digital marketing and how all those type of things are connected. And where does the customer eventually convert? Is it an off-site conversion, brick and mortar? Is it a Facebook lead ad, a LinkedIn lead form, a third-party e-commerce system, an app store download? So before you employ any of these strategies, it's important to really map out those things online and connect them all together so that you can have the highest returns. So now I'm really excited to bring in Eythor. Eythor is going to walk you through paid search, specifically Google AdWords. This guy manages millions and millions of dollars a year. Eythor, go ahead and take us away.
Thanks, John. So first on our agenda, paid search, and Google AdWords is obviously a big component of that, and that's what we're going to focus on today. But we just wanted to take a moment to kind of lay the landscape and mention Bing Ads and Yahoo Gemini. These are also very important search engines to take advantage of and shouldn't be ignored. But in the essence of time, we're going to focus our efforts today on Google AdWords. So what is Google AdWords? I think most people are very familiar with it. It's the Goliath of online advertising. It's really quite amazing how dominant they are in the online advertising space. They account for 41% of all U.S. digital revenue. And even more dominant in search, accounting for approximately 78%, and that's in the order of 28.5 billion revenue in the U.S. alone. On the display side of things, their market share is a little bit smaller. It's about 12%, but it's still a meaningful amount, about 5.25 billion in revenue expected this year, which is a little bit smaller than Facebook, but still important. And we're going to cover both of those, both Facebook and Google Display here as well today. So first thing we want to do is just help everybody understand some of the important changes that have happened in Google AdWords that may be impacting your campaigns or new campaigns that you create. And the first that we'd like to discuss is close variant expansion. And what close variant expansion is, it's allowing Google to take more liberty in terms of what search queries your targeted keywords can show up for. So no longer is an exact match keyword truly exact, and no longer is a phrase match keyword truly phrase. Google is saying that what they call function words are not necessarily indicators of user intent and do not necessarily impact the transactional nature or the intent of that particular query. So Google is saying we're going to go ahead and allow search queries to serve for your exact and phrase match keywords by replacing or ignoring or adding function words. And function words are things like a, from, to, then, for, from. So that's an important thing to take note of. And the other is that Google is saying if it identifies that the wording, the words are in a different order, but the meaning is the same, then they may serve that. Now, this kind of goes against the grain of what we've always known exact and phrase match to be, is it must be in that particular order. But now Google is allowing, if they're very confident, their technology is very confident that the different order means the same thing, then your search query may show for this. So far we're not seeing significant negative impacts on client accounts as a result of this, but it's something certainly to be aware of. And then you may start to see an increase in ad spend because your keywords are starting to serve for a larger percentage of search queries than they did before. Okay, the next item I'd like to discuss is store visits. And this is really exciting because now we're taking the data about what people are doing after they leave their computer or their phone and they actually go into a physical store, and we're actually able to map that back to the ad that they clicked on or the ad that they saw in Google. And there's several other solutions that are coming out with this as well. Facebook has it as well, but we're really seeing great results in being able to report to clients not only how many online conversions did we generate, but how many people did we actually send into the store. And that's really useful to be able to make better decisions about how we should allocate our budget and optimize our campaigns. And the final thing that we'd like to discuss in terms of what's new is this new user experience. And we have kind of mixed feelings about this as paid search experts who've been in the Google AdWords interface for close to a decade and got very familiar with how things work there. This is truly the most fundamental change in the way that the interface itself and all the information within the interface and all the controls and settings is organized. And we're getting used to it, and we are starting to like it over time. And I think that it's going to benefit new users in particular because it makes things a bit more intuitive, particularly for new users. It's also introducing a lot more graphics, as you can see here, things like heat maps and different types of charts and imagery that really helps you understand what's happening with your campaign. Along with this new user experience, we're also going to get some new features, and one of those is call bid adjustments. And on the next slide here, we're going to dive into a couple of the items, including call bid adjustments. So the final piece of what's new, first call bid adjustments, like I mentioned. So what is this? So you may be familiar with phone numbers serving next to your ads in Google search results. What you may not be completely familiar with is that Google does not serve those phone numbers on mobile devices 100% of the time. In fact, it's more like 40% of the available impressions when your ads serve on mobile devices does the call extension serve. And this can be very frustrating if calls are really important to your business. So with this feature release, this allows Google to say, allows you as an advertiser to say that you're willing to pay more to force your call extension to serve, and therefore get higher percentage of call phone number impressions and more calls to your business. So that's something that we're starting to implement for our highly call-driven clients. Next, we have data-driven attribution. So many people may be familiar with the default last click attribution. So attribution is how much credit do we want to give to each click that leads to a conversion. And what we're finding is that many conversions have multiple different clicks or touch points before the ultimate conversion occurs, sometimes as many as 4 or 5 or even 10, where people are kind of browsing around, clicking the ads multiple times. So how do you know how you should allocate the credit among all those different clicks? By default, everything was just going to that last click, which was not really the best way to give credit. So with data-driven attribution, we're kind of giving control to Google's machine learning. We know that they have some very intelligent machine learning. They have a algorithm that just beat the best Go players, and they have some other things that are pretty amazing there. So we are, we are seeing good results and have confidence in this attribution model. And if you do have enough conversions to get opted into data-driven attribution, we do recommend it, as we are seeing positive results from that. And then also, we have similar audiences for search. So similar audiences is Google's name for what you may be familiar with from Facebook, which is lookalike audiences. And this is essentially taking a source audience, such as your customer email list or people who have converted on your website based on a pixel on your web page, and then taking that source audience and then creating a larger list of people who have similarities or who have characteristics that are similar to those people. So whereas before we could only use similar audiences in display targeting, we now have the ability to take that similar audience and layer it on to our search campaigns. So if we have certain keywords that are very broad and we're having challenges getting them to convert, what we can do is add those similar audiences onto those keywords and only serve our ads for those particular broad keywords when there's kind of an intersection between somebody that's in that similar audience and also doing a search for that broad keyword. So that's just one example of how that can be leveraged. And then finally, in-market audiences for search. This is currently in closed beta. It will begin to open for more advertisers that we'll be able to get some of our clients into in Q4. But in-market audiences is data that Google has that indicates that these people are in a transactional mode based on their browsing or search behavior for a particular product or service, and we can layer that data on our search data to increase or decrease our bids based on that information. So that's one thing that we're truly really excited about. And overall, what you can see here is just a lot of audience-based information that's being integrated with search campaigns, which is something that's very new here in the last couple of years.
Really exciting stuff. I just wanted to quickly take this opportunity just to remind everybody, if you'd like to ask a question, there's a chat feature that should be on the right-hand side of your screen, so you can chat to us anytime. I'll save most of them for the end so that we can address them in the Q&A, but if there's something that we can answer immediately, we may do that as well. So make sure to keep that in mind to use the chat feature.
Okay, so next what we'd like to do is just give you a couple of the tricks that we leverage to get really good results for clients. First of all, it's critical to get your tracking right, and this isn't just for Google AdWords. This is regardless of whether it's Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever advertising platform you're doing. But frankly, in more than 50% of the ad accounts that we do audits on, the potential prospect or potential clients, the tracking is just not set up right. Either it's they're tracking half of the conversions, they're tracking their form conversions, but they're not tracking their calls, or they're duplicating their conversions. They have the conversion, the AdWords conversion pixel in place, but also importing conversions from analytics, or they're importing 5 different conversions from analytics that are all kind of duplicating together that make it very difficult to really understand what's happening. So there really needs to be a comprehensive audit of your tracking and make sure what you're tracking is an indication that a user has completed an action on the site that's driving business value, or a micro event on the site that's driving business value and can be used to make better decisions about where we should allocate budget within the campaigns. Secondly, it's really critical to fine-tune your budget and your bidding strategy. So one of the biggest issues I see in campaigns when we do audits is campaigns in a state of budget constriction. And what can happen in this case is you have one keyword that can cannibalize most of the available budget, and some of the longer tail, highly transactional keywords that are in that campaign don't really have an opportunity to serve for more than 40 or 50% of the available impressions per out today, because this one keyword is kind of cannibalizing everything. So that's something to be really keep an eye on, and be careful with budget constriction. If you do see that you're in a budget constricted state, what I recommend is using the Google smart bidding tactic called maximize for conversions. So Google has several different bidding options. There's regular manual CPC, there's enhanced CPC, there's target CPA, and now a new feature they've released is maximize for conversions. So if you are in a budget constricted state, I do recommend implementing maximize for conversions, as long as you're getting somewhere in the range of at least 20 conversions per 14 days in that particular campaign. Third item here is leverage audience data for targeting and bidding. So we just talked about some of the new features in terms of adding similar audiences, the in-market audiences that are coming out. Some of the things that advertisers may not be aware of is that we can now actually get data on age, gender, and some other demographic information, and try to understand, should we be serving our ads for this keyword if they're 18 to 24? Is that outside of the range that typically performs well? And we can aggregate that data and see, and particularly block that out or bid less for that particular age range. Similarly, as Ryan will get into in more detail, we recommend adding your remarketing list to your search campaign, so that you can, if somebody's been to your site before but then continues to search and do research and search for your competitors, that you add a positive bid adjustment so that you are in the top position all the time after they've been to your website and they see you as a market leader. And then finally, it's really important to segment your performance data. So once you get your tracking right, then you got to segment the performance. You segment it out by device, segment it out by day of week and hour of day, and by gender and age, and all the different keyword variables. And this is really how you're going to gain performance over time.
And just a quick note on the keyword cannibalization point. We recently saw that being a huge issue in a client campaign Eythor did, and it was able to cut their expenses by about $17,000 a month, which was a really big win for the client. So definitely a very important strategy, and one that I've seen and he has seen that goes kind of left unchecked quite often with very large campaigns where people are just trying to maximize exposure on a certain term, and they're not really looking at the details as closely as they should be.
Thanks, John. All right, so next we're going to get into paid social, and today we're going to talk about two of the paid social platforms. Of course, there's Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Twitter, and many others such as Quora and Reddit and StumbleUpon. But today we're going to focus on two of the big ones that we really like to drive results for clients, and they have slightly different, they're best for slightly different types of businesses. Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads, and Ryan is going to start us off with LinkedIn ads.
Thank you, Eythor. Ryan here, everyone, and I'm going to review LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, what is it? It's a social platform that caters to professionals and people in specific industries to facilitate connections between like-minded industries, and also to generate a way of people to seek out talent or services that they require. It is a business-to-business platform. It does very well in this marketing field for both services and, also for hunting talent. And it offers several different options when we look at kind of the ad space. LinkedIn is still a social platform, so it is basically will show ads in a text ad format with a small image. You can also take a sponsored content, which is basically taking a blog information or a white paper that you've written and sharing that with your audience. And then there's lead ads, which are basically a pre-filled out ad. And then you can actually advertise within the LinkedIn mail system. Now, LinkedIn's real advantage is when it comes down to their targeting. This is a network of professionals, so we have information on job titles, industry, company they work for, area they work in. So you can really hyper-target your business services to these individuals and really reach out to the decision makers as they browse this platform. What I'd like to go over today, so those are the basics of LinkedIn. I'd like to go over today a couple of strategies and some things that have changed with LinkedIn in the last 6 months that have really made it a formidable force. So the really big change is that LinkedIn has finally come out with their own conversion and tracking pixel. This was a long time coming, and it made optimization of LinkedIn campaigns very difficult because we were relying upon third-party tracking that we had to cross-reference, and we had to make sure that we were picking up all the correct elements for the ad copy, for the campaign. It made it difficult to make optimizations and have a real good picture of what was happening throughout the account. LinkedIn has changed that by adding some conversion tracking. As Eythor spoke of earlier, having tracking is so important to how you're going to optimize your campaigns and how you're going to see what is being successful and what you need to pause out when it's a poor performer. What comes with this ability is this new pixel is we also have the ability for remarketing, meaning that you can basically remarket to people on LinkedIn that have visited your website or come by. And then another innovation that's related to that is matched audiences. This is a feature that both Google and Facebook have, but this allows you to basically take your email list and upload it to LinkedIn, and it creates an audience from that matching against emails within their database. It's a great way to keep engaged with your audience or to reach out with them with new services. It's an excellent thing that we certainly recommend doing. And then the last item is this is a professional network, social network, so it's a really good idea to offer a white paper or a free demo or something of that nature in your ad copy to engage these people in your audience, to bring them in, to get their email address, to possibly create a lead or even a sale. But you really want to kind of offer something within this sphere so that you can engage with people. And so that's it for LinkedIn, and we're going to turn it back over to Eythor for Facebook.
Quick note on LinkedIn. So the question was asked, aren't LinkedIn ads expensive? They are more expensive generally, but of course that all comes down to the targeting. Recently we were running some campaigns. It was costing about $60 to acquire a lead, which actually isn't too bad, but we had very refined targeting. Ryan, did you have any quick points on LinkedIn ads and their expense?
Sure. There is a higher floor, a much higher floor than you would see in the search networks in terms of the dollar amount. It is a $4 for the text ads. However, because of the targeting, as John said, you kind of have an advantage. And when you look at the cost per click for business services, it's not out of line at all to see something that's in the teens, 20s, or $50 or $60, depending upon the business service. It's a very, very competitive market on search. And so the comparable price on LinkedIn, which is a little more highly targeted in terms of the decision makers, is comparable, I would say.
Excellent. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ryan. All right, so next we're going to get into Facebook advertising. And Facebook, as you probably already know, is kind of the behemoth in the social media space. It's really quite amazing how fast that social network has grown, and the fact that now there's over 2 billion monthly active users, which is really just amazing. When you look at how much revenue Facebook is driving from their ads this year, it accounts for 39% of all U.S. digital display revenue, or $16.33 billion. And the primary advantage of Facebook advertising over other platforms is that advanced people-based targeting, or at least in comparison, that advantage compared to things like Google AdWords is that advanced people-based targeting. So when you log into Facebook, whether you're on your mobile device or you're at work or you're at home, you're logging into your user account. Whereas when you're on Google, you're basically a cookie on your tablet and on your mobile device and on your computer and your home, and it's all very disjoint data. And Google doesn't have all the same type of information about who you are, what your interests are, what your demographic and age is. So that's a great advantage that Facebook has compared to Google AdWords. So first, we'd like to give you guys an overview of the different types of ads that we can run on Facebook. And there really is a very robust set of different ad types or creative types that we can run. So we have image ads, which are those standard images with a bit of text and headline associated to them that show up in the news feed. There's video ads that show up in a similar space and similar size, but can play a video. Then there's also lead ads, and lead ads are great for business-to-business or lead generation type campaigns. The advantage of lead ads is that the user never actually leaves Facebook. So somebody who's kind of wanting to stay in Facebook and to increase conversion rates because their data is pre-populated into the lead form, this can be really a great advantage, and we do see very low cost per lead for that particular type of ad. However, it does require some technical setup because the lead has to integrate directly with your CRM system, such as Salesforce. There's also carousel ads. Carousel ads are composed of multiple images, and each image has a title and a small amount of text associated to it. This is very common for retailers to kind of showcase a number of different products, but it can be used for a wide variety of different things. And in fact, most businesses can use carousel ads. In fact, Ignite Visibility, we currently have ads running that are carousel that are based on several different case studies. So each carousel unit is a different case study. There's also dynamic retargeting. Dynamic retargeting uses the carousel format, but the images that are shown in those particular units is based on the specific products that that particular user viewed on your website. So it's very personalized for each user. And then there's also canvas ads, and canvas ads is essentially almost like a little mini website within Facebook. So if they click into the ad, they can really engage in a very dynamic way with the canvas ad. These are not easy to set up, but they can really have a great effect for your brand. And Facebook has a lot of different objective types, and really overall, what we'd like to get across is that Facebook is great for hitting users all across the buying funnel. So from brand awareness to driving consideration and ultimately conversion, Facebook has different targeting and creative types that can work in all of these scenarios.
Just a quick note, the campaign that we're running for Ignite, we're acquiring leads at about $17 per lead. We have very refined targeting, and just a lesson learned in the past, we've tried it before with Facebook. It is all about the creative and the targeting. If you have poor creative but great targeting, you're not going to get that lead. You could waste hundreds or thousands of dollars. So it's really important it's done right. You need a good strategist to assist you in doing that correctly. Otherwise, you could be throwing money away and you think, oh, why isn't this working? Well, it's just because the ads haven't been set up correctly or the creative's not good.
Thanks, John. All right, on this slide, we have just a general overview to give you kind of the landscape of the different core targeting capabilities that we have on Facebook. So we can target by location, by demographic, by interest, by behaviors, and by connections. Behaviors incorporates data that may come from third-party suppliers. For example, you can target people who are frequent purchasers of dog food, for example, and that data comes from a third-party provider that connects into Facebook. Interest data is based on the things that the user likes in Facebook as well as their browsing and app activity. And then on the next slide, we're going to get into some of the more advanced targeting capabilities. So first is custom audiences. And custom audiences gives you the ability to use what we call first-party data. So that's the advertiser's own data. And this can include emails or other sources of information about your existing customers or newsletter subscribers. And by uploading this list of emails into Facebook, you can make a connection between those email accounts and a matching Facebook account, and then you can target those particular users directly or use it as a source to create a lookalike audience. And one thing that we wanted to point out in this slide, and this is a concern from some advertisers, is that they're concerned about those emails, Facebook using them, or somebody else getting access to them somehow. So Facebook is monitored by a third party to assure that when you upload those email accounts, they do automatically get deleted, and all that's left is the associated Facebook ad accounts. On this slide, we wanted to just show that emails are not the only way that you can create a custom audience. We can also use your page fans. We can use your website visitors, and that's going to include people who've been to any page on your site or a particular page, or who have converted or have added to cart, or people who have installed your mobile app or been to your mobile app. So there's a lot of different sources that we can use to create custom audiences, both to target those people directly with ads and re-engage them, and also to create lookalike audiences. And on the next slide, we're going to dive into a little bit more to help understand how these lookalike audiences work. So what lookalike audiences do is they use all that great data that Facebook has on the people, those custom audiences that you upload, and from those people, Facebook's able to identify what are the unique combinations about these people in terms of their age, their gender, their interests, their demographic, their location, all those core targeting capabilities we saw there. What's the unique, the best match of those people to the rest of the Facebook population, say in the United States. So if you want to create a lookalike audience in the United States, Facebook's going to take your core audience and then scale that up to create an audience of people who share those characteristics most similarly. And lookalike audiences can be done in 1%, 2%, all the way up to 10%. The 1% is going to be the 1% of the population in the country that you're targeting that is most similar to your source audience, whereas a 10% would be the 10% of the population in that country that's most similar to your source audience. And of course, 1% is going to be the most refined targeting, whereas 10% is going to be a bit more broad. So if you're just kind of getting started and you're looking for a very refined targeting with a low budget, I recommend a 1% audience. If you're looking to really scale and brand and grow things, then you can start looking at 5% and all the way up to 10%. So here are a couple tricks that we like to leverage to get the best results in Facebook. Number one, ensure that the Facebook algorithm has enough data to optimize. So if you have a performance goal in Facebook, what I recommend is you have a performance goal in Facebook, what I recommend. Hey, hey John, could you jump in for a minute? My computer actually just turned off.
Yeah, no problem. Technical difficulties often happen on a webinar.
Okay, no problem. I'm back on here. Sorry about that. So
okay, no worries. Go ahead.
So essentially, with when you have a performance goal with Facebook, you're going to want to optimize for conversions and let the Facebook algorithm determine which particular users to serve those ads to. But if Facebook doesn't have enough conversion data to be able to optimize, the results are going to be very poor. So one of the common issues that we see in accounts that we audit is there's not enough conversion data for the Facebook algorithm to optimize effectively. So what we recommend is to have at least 15 to 25 conversions per ad set per month. And if you're not able to get that many conversions, then what we recommend to do is to go higher in the funnel. And what that means is if you're optimizing for a lead or a sale, for example, what you can do is you can go higher in the funnel, which is add to cart. And if a user has clicked add to cart, that's higher in the funnel, and it indicates to Facebook that this is a user who's highly engaged and likely to convert, and they can use that data to serve ads to people who are very similar to them going forward. Secondly, it's important to be very specific with your targeting, but don't go too specific so that your audience is quickly saturated. So as a rule of thumb, typically somewhere in the range of 50,000 users. If you go too far below that, you could saturate your audience very quickly unless you have a very small budget. But if your audience is 10 million, you're going to be way too broad, and it's very unlikely that you're going to get a good quality score or good results. And then also it's important to exclude poor performing audience network placements, and this is called blacklisting. So if you do enable the audience network, which includes a network of sites and apps that are part of the Facebook ad network, make sure you're monitoring the performance of those placements and excluding the ones that are underperforming. John, did you have something you wanted to add about the creative there?
I think we covered it pretty well. From my own experience, everybody, I've run Facebook ads. I've worked with a lot of members of our team who have run Facebook ads. I've seen it for a lot of our clients, and I can't emphasize enough that if you've got the right picture, you've got the right messaging, you're going to get a super low cost per acquisition, a good conversion rate, and all that. If you have the wrong stuff and you just throw something up really quickly and it's like a stock, think about it for yourself. You're just going to blow past that stuff on Facebook, right? So it really is important to have, not only a great creative and great targeting, but then that secondary landing page and a really clear funnel that's specific to Facebook. Because if you just kick them to your homepage on your site, nobody's going to convert, right? So, the details are incredibly important. Not in all paid media, but for Facebook in general, because you're taking somebody out of an area where they're enjoying themselves. They're not really looking for a B2B thing. And in some cases, they are interested in other verticals like a retail or something like that more than other areas. But you got to put your mind in the mind of the user. So next, we're going to jump into display ads, and we actually have quite a bit more. But I would say that it just keeps getting better as we're kind of continuing here. So we've got display, and then we're going to jump into some other cool stuff like programmatic, which is one of the cooler things going on right now. Go ahead and take us away with display.
Thanks, John. So this first slide here, we just want to lay the overall landscape of display. So there's a lot of different companies that are involved in display ads. Where you may be familiar with just going into Google Display Network, but there is so much else out there. So we wanted to show you a couple of vendors that are kind of service different areas of the display ecosystem. For example, DoubleClick and the Trade Desk are examples of this demand-side platforms that allow advertisers to programmatically buy display impressions across many different ad exchanges. And then there's Criteo and AdRoll, which are specialty programmatic platforms designed to really optimize your retargeting and maximize people who've been to your website before. And then we have publishers, huge publishers like YouTube, and then Oath, which is a new company that has been formed by Verizon, which is comprised of AOL, Yahoo, Huffington Post, TechCrunch, and many other publishers. So that's actually a big publisher now that's worth taking note of. Okay, and first of all, we're going to get into YouTube, and Ryan's going to get us started off there.
Thank you, Eythor. Hello, everyone, again. So I'm going to review YouTube, which I'm sure you're familiar with as the largest video platform in the world. However, it is also the second largest search engine based on searches to Google itself. It's a pretty remarkable platform in that it provides both a passive kind of advertising function for display and also almost a search capability. As John talked about a lot in Facebook, in terms of the importance of imagery, this is also very true for YouTube. So when you want to look at who the business this is for, these are businesses that have video resources or they have the capital to have somebody produce them or produce them themselves. You really want to have high quality videos and well done videos that are to the point, on message. It's very easy to just kind of waste money, as John said, with the kind of wrong imagery, and this is as visual a platform as you're going to find. The real advantage of YouTube is you actually have a couple of different ways to advertise. You can have your commercial or your ad run as part of search, as I said before, so that if somebody is searching for a specific service or item, you can serve your ad to them in that format. But what most people are familiar with are the in-stream ads, which run before videos and are usually targeted based on interests or something of that nature. So we have a couple of ad options there. And what I'd like to get into right away, though, is kind of just the strategies of how to make this work for you. So if we could go on to the next slide. The biggest thing is what I was talking about a little bit before and what John talked about is compelling content. Compelling video content that has to get to the point quickly. You should have a 5 to 10 second elevator pitch, and that should be followed by a call to action. You're basically going to get 15 seconds for this ad to run, and it will run roughly about 10 seconds or so before the user can go ahead and skip that ad. So you really want to get to the point so that they either finish out the ad's run or you've made your point before they decide to skip the ad. This is very important, and really everything with YouTube advertising revolves around the quality of your video content there. I'm going to skip the second because I want to talk a little bit more about that, but placement targeting using popular search terms. Now, I talked about how it's a giant search engine. Well, what you want to do is, if you want to do placement targeting, which means basically having your video appear on videos for a specific channel or even a specific video itself, you can target those specific channels by searching what's relevant to your business. And what are the most popular ads that happen to be at the top, the most popular videos that are rendered by the YouTube search engine, and put your placements there. You'll tend to find that they have high audience value, and this should be kind of matching up what you're looking for. This is a very successful strategy when you're looking to do placements. Another thing is you have to remember that a lot of people may be looking at YouTube not necessarily with the sound on, so it is important to make use of subtitles within your ads. There's a way to convey your message very quickly, and it's a way to also kind of get that call to action flash to their brain in association with your imagery and also with a direct sentence pitch. For my last thing, I want to go over layering similar audiences with intro and demo targeting. If we could go on to the next slide. This is basically very important, and we'll go over this several times. As Eythor talked about, similar audiences are what you find with, they're like lookalike audiences. They're audiences that Google has chosen interest and characteristics and matched up to a specific audience that you choose it to be similar to, whether it's converters, time spent on the site, or something of that nature. It's a good idea in this sphere, and also as we get into display, to layer your similar audiences with your demo targeting, whether it's the age or gender, or you can also layer it within a specific site. So you could advertise, you want to advertise, your people read a specific website or a group of websites, but you don't want to advertise to everyone that that's on that reading that site. This is a way to kind of target somebody that's more similar to the characteristics of your customers and reach out to them. And it's a great way to do it for topic targeting. You can do it for placements and also for demos. So very important to do this to really refine your targeting. You'll find that that's a constant theme as we go through everything. And lastly, with YouTube, I wanted to go over a couple of new items that are coming up that have to do with targeting. And these items are basically affinity audiences. Now, Eythor will go into the in-market and affinity audiences a little bit later with display, but these are targeting methods that are also available for YouTube through the Google AdWords platform. And what they're doing now is they're adding new specialized affinity audiences. They're adding 10 new ones now, and they tend to kind of, as Google gathers all this data together, they introduce these new audiences. And these are based on search data and behavioral data. And we find that these are very, very excellent to kind of use for targeting when you layer it up with, say, topics or specific placements. This is a very good tactic in addition to using similar audiences. The other event is, the other big new thing is life events. Facebook's been doing this for a while, but life events are marriage, moving, new job, graduation, new baby, these types of major events which Google can determine and YouTube can determine by search patterns, what videos you're looking at, what ads you're looking at. They are rolling out this type of targeting for YouTube in mid-August. It's kind of whitelisted now, but we expect, as Eythor said with some of these items, we're expecting them to be fully available to all advertisers a little later this year. And that's about it for YouTube, guys. I'm going to turn this over to Eythor to discuss the Google Display Network.
Just a quick note on YouTube. Like these guys, I've run probably near 100 YouTube ads. I've got one ad I can turn on and the leads just start coming in. I've got another one I can turn on, a series of other ones actually, where it just blows out our branding and we start getting in a lot of direct traffic from people who are really interested in learning more about the company. The amount of volume that you can get on YouTube is just crazy. So you can turn on an ad and get hundreds of thousands of views, in some cases for thousands of dollars. So for me, it's a bit of a secret weapon right now. It's really inexpensive, and it's really cool. I really enjoy YouTube ads quite a bit just because of the response you get. Google Display Network is actually a bit like that too. So Eythor, if you could go ahead and take us away, that'd be great. Eythor, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Mute. Sorry, I was on mute. So Google Display Network. Yeah, so the Google Display Network has approximately 2 million websites. So there's a lot of websites in the Google Display Network, and you can reach almost 90% of the global audience there. For overall, what we recommend in terms of display is, if you're just getting into display, retargeting is going to be one of the best first options. But then if you're looking to try to do some prospecting and branding and more aggressive in display, kind of the next best option is going to start with Google Display and or Facebook. And then we can get into programmatic. We're going to get into that in more detail. But Google Display really makes things easy for kind of beginners. And we're going to kind of dive into some of the options that we can do there on Google Display in the next slide here. So similarly to Facebook, we can touch people across all different areas of the buying channel. We can build awareness, but we can also drive conversions and grow loyalty. So this slide here just gives you an idea of some of the different targeting options that are best fit for these different areas in the buying funnel. So if we're looking to build awareness, things like similar audiences, keyword contextual targeting, and in-market audiences are great targeting options there. But if we're looking to drive conversions, and things like retargeting as well as display select keywords are often going to drive direct response results. And I can tell you that with things like display select keywords in layered with select placements, we're able to drive significant performance similar to the performance we get with our search campaigns in Google. So in Google search, so it can be done, and display select keywords is a great option there. some of the things that are new. One is smart display. So this is essentially giving up control to how you want to manage the campaign. What you basically say, this is what my ad should look like, and I want it to go ahead and let Google run it across all of the different display network, including YouTube, and then tell Google what your CPA goal is, your ROAS goal is, and then it will try to optimize it from there. So this is great for beginner advertisers, but there's not a lot of controls in place, which is not the best if you really want to get more advanced results. There's also going to be custom in-market audiences. So custom in-market audiences gives you the ability to take an audience that's very similar to your website or your competitors, and then Google will try to identify what are they in market for. Are they in market for your particular type of product? And then we can target them with that. So we're very excited about that, and that's just been released, and that could be similar to the display select keywords in terms of the performance we see there. There's also been some changes in terms of Gmail. So before, we used to be able to target Gmail ads based on the fact that they had received an email from a competitor, for example. This is now no longer going to be available because Google is no longer going to scan the content of emails to be able to target based on the content of the emails. However, as a caveat, they are going to allow us to target in Gmail based on that user's prior search data. So that is kind of exciting, and it's very new, and we're looking to get this started for some clients based on essentially search retargeting within Gmail ads. Okay. A couple of the top tricks that we use to get good results. Number one, utilize contextual and audience layering. We talked a little bit about layering before, but in some of the clients where we get really good direct response results, what we do is we'll find the placements, the websites where we know are great for our advertiser, and then we layer that with particular contextual or audience information to get the best results. We also recommend utilizing Google Smart Bidding. So this is something like saying, I'm willing to pay X amount to get a conversion, and let Google determine how much it wants to bid for each placement as a result. And then also, this is really important, make sure you're using negative placements. Look through the placements that your automatic placements are matching up to, and make sure you're adding negative placements. Particularly, take a look at the performance of mobile apps, because they can really degrade performance if you're not advertising an app.
Great stuff. And just a quick point on the contextual and audience layering. When we launched SEO the movie, which was a little documentary we put together, we picked the exact sites and the exact audience that we wanted to go after, because there's only a few people who really would want to, be interested in that film. That was really successful for us, and definitely a great little trick and strategy to get the most out of display.
Okay, next we're going to dive into remarketing, and Ryan's going to handle remarketing for us. Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, thank you, Eythor. So remarketing may also be referred to as retargeting, but what is it? Basically, at its essence, it's digital marketing that is aimed at users who have a familiarity with your brand or company or services. What you do to gather this information is we basically make use of pixels, whether from Google or LinkedIn or Facebook, and we can measure website visitors. We can take a customer email list and upload it to these platforms and then market to that. And also, you should always be tracking if you're doing leads or conversions or any part of the funnel. You should be tracking that so that you can appeal to past buyers if you're a repeat buying product, or if you would like to market a new promo or service to people who have purchased from you directly before. So there are a couple of ways that you can do that in terms of putting those audiences together, but the real essence of it is you're marketing to people who are already familiar with in some form. They may have, as I said, bought from you, or they may have just perused your website as they're doing research. But these are people who have been to your site, kind of know what you're about, and what you're looking to do is pull them back into a lower part of the funnel. This works basically for any company. If you're doing any of the platforms that we've talked about today, you should be employing remarketing. It really is an easy way to both reach out to people who you didn't convert the first time, or let people know about your new service that has converted in the past. It is a high converting, high ROI method of, and it works on almost any platform these days. So it's very important for you to employ this if you are getting on the digital sphere. Now, there are a couple ways that you can actually use remarketing. Eythor talked about this a little bit in the AdWords, in which you can take your remarketing audience and you can actually apply it to your search terms and your search campaigns, so that if somebody is continuing to search for, say, a generic search versus a brand, if they continue to search for that, you can have a positive bid adjustment, so you're more aggressive with your bid for that person that's still doing research, and that gives you a better chance of bringing them in and making that conversion. It's a very, very successful tactic for us with a variety of setups, and we really recommend doing it. The one you're most familiar with, Eythor just went over the display network. I'm sure we've all visited Amazon, and then you see kind of a product follow you around as probably the last product you looked at. This is a form of dynamic remarketing through display advertising. They're basically showing you a picture of the product that you looked at. They're looking for you to complete the sale because they know you showed interest in that product, but you didn't actually complete the order. This is a way that is a very sophisticated way of remarketing that we can employ through Google, through dynamic remarketing, and also through Facebook. There are some options there as well. This is an excellent way for any kind of e-commerce retailer to kind of grab people, and both who have purchased frequently from them, or even people who are kind of down, who may have abandoned their cart or something of that nature. The next would be kind of video. As I talked about a little bit in the YouTube presentation, you can use remarketing audiences there, similar audiences. One of the other advantages are as more and more publishers are making use of video on their sites, so that you can show video video remarketing to people on those sites. So those are the basics of remarketing. What I'd like to go into are a couple of strategies for implementing that we found that have been really, really successful for us. The first is for anybody doing e-commerce, you really should be targeting cart abandoners. And this kind of goes with the teaser offer, in that when you can target a cart abandoner and you ask them for you give them a 5% discount if they complete their purchase within 24 hours, your close rates are excellent. It's completely worth it on a cost per acquisition level and a return on ad spend. It's just an excellent, easy way for you to up your sales by basically reaching out to people who almost completed the process. The second part is regularly updating your customer lists. The advantage of being able to upload email lists to these platforms to do remarketing is diminished if you don't have that as a fresh list. We would really recommend doing that at least on a quarterly basis, but if you get a lot more emails than that, you may want to consider doing it on a monthly basis. But the real key there is you shouldn't try to create similar audiences and other remarketing for a customer list that may be 6-7 months old. You really want to make sure you have that freshened up. The next one is basically chopping up your remarketing audiences by time of visit, or you can also use this time since visit. You can also use this with the amount of pages they may have searched. This is a way of segmenting your audience so that somebody who's been to your site within the last 3 days is treated a little bit different than the person who's been there from the last 4 to 10 days. That's different from the person that has been there for the 11 to 20 days. And the reason for this is as people are doing various specific searches, they're going to be doing research, and you want to reach out to them and hit them harder in that first time frame. So somebody with a 3-day visit, you're going to bid for more than somebody that was in the 11 to 20 days since their last visit. And this is a time decay bidding strategy, basically where you just have a higher bid for the person that was most recently at your site, in the very simplest terms. Now, teaser offers are something that you can offer for a lot of different audiences. As I said, it's great for cart abandoners, but you can also do this for people who, maybe send in a lead form and didn't ultimately convert. Or there's a lot of different ways that you can use to reach out to people. The key is with remarketing is you want to kind of bring them back into the fold. So any way you can do that, even if it's a simple discount, is something you should ultimately pursue. Now, I allude to this a little bit with the time to gauge strategy, but ad frequency is very important. Facebook they'll show ads a lot. As Eythor said, you can get saturation if you have too small an audience. Google has a little bit more control of that in that you can control how many times your ads are shown to a user in a given day. But it's important to know how hard to hit these audiences. If somebody has just visited your site and they're just interested in your product, then you want to show them a lot of ads in a short time period. You want to kind of push them down that funnel so that they'll make a decision and convert. If it's been a little longer and you just want to kind of keep brand awareness, then you're obviously not going to show them a lot of ads during a given day. The other important thing there is when you do promos, and we have a lot of retail clients that have frequent promotions, you have to be aware of how much you're showing that promotion in a given day and how often you're doing those promotions so that you don't get into issues of ad fatigue with basically your best audience, which is people who have converted for you. And with that, that's pretty much it for remarketing. I'm going to turn it over to Eythor for programmatic advertising.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. So programmatic advertising is a term that's been thrown around a lot recently, and I think it means different things to different people, but the way that we want to help you understand programmatic advertising is from the advertiser perspective, and how can you as an advertiser capitalize on programmatic advertising. So it really, from an advertiser perspective, is the ability to bid on impressions for individual users, individual impressions in real time through what's called demand-side platforms. And I alluded to a couple examples of those, such as Google DoubleClick Bid Manager and Trade Desk, but there's quite a few other ones out there as well that we work with. And who is it right for? Ultimately, this is probably not the first place that you want to start if you're getting into display. We recommend kind of wading into display through retargeting and Google Display Network and Facebook first, seeing some success there, and then when you're ready to really scale things in a more aggressive and controlled way with more creative capabilities and reporting capabilities and bidding efficiency, that's when you start looking at programmatic. So a couple of reasons why programmatic is taking off right now. Number one is publishers are more comfortable with advertiser controls, so they have a little bit more control within these within the supply side platforms that make their impression inventory available to advertisers, so that they can prevent advertisers that don't kind of mesh with the essence of their publisher site. And then secondly, computing speeds. And thirdly, internet speeds, and then finally, machine learning. I think machine learning is probably the biggest factor here. There's been a lot of advances there, and that's really allowing some more impressive efficiencies in the way that media is bought digitally through real-time bidding. So when you're looking at programmatic and trying to understand programmatic display, there's a few key terminology that's really important that you understand, and you'll see a lot of these acronyms, so I just want to help you understand what these acronyms mean. So SSP, that stands for Supply Side Platform. So that's how big publishers are making their inventory available to real-time bidding or programmatic buying of media. Then in between the supply side platform and the demand side platform where an advertiser is purchasing the media is an ad exchange. And so that's basically the kind of the clearinghouse for all of these different bids that are coming in from different advertisers through their demand side platforms. Examples of ad exchanges are Google DoubleClick, for example. And then demand side platform, data management platform. So data management platform is a platform that advertisers can use to gain better insights into their existing client database, as well as pull data in from other providers such as Axiom and other providers that have a lot of data on users. And then there is the demand side platform, and that's where most advertisers are going to focus their efforts, because they're going to go to the demand side platform, and that's where they're going to load their creative, their bidding, their targeting, and all that's going to happen inside the demand side platform. And then the demand side platform is going to push out everything and push to the exchanges and then ultimately to the publisher. So this diagram just helps kind of explain in a very simplified methodology about how Ignite Visibility operates with programmatic. So we are in charge of the creative development, the targeting methodology, and the bidding model optimization, and then we push all of that into a demand-side platform such as Google DoubleClick Bid Manager, but we also work with other demand-side platforms as well. We connect the client information, so that being their first-party data like we talked about before, their people who've been to their website, or their CRM data from email lists. We load that information in there to get an idea of who these people are that are existing customers. And then we also connect into Google DoubleClick or the demand-side platform third-party data, which has information about their prospects or their potential customers, so that we can scale that and target those particular people. And then ultimately, once we get all that targeting and creative into the demand-side platform, that's ultimately going to get pushed out to the publisher websites, and that's all fed back. Now, there's a lot of other things involved here. This is a more simplified view. There is, of course, a supply-side platform and the ad exchange in between the demand-side platform and the publisher website, but this gives you kind of a general overview of how programmatic works. So a few top tricks to really get success with programmatic. First of all, start with robust first-party data. That first-party data, again, is people who've been to your website or customer information. And the reason that this is important is because we need to know all the different characteristics about your client base so that we can find people who are similar to them. And then two, invest in creative. This is really important, and John alluded to this in terms of Facebook as well. Great creative is going to make all the difference, so that's critically important. And then finally, know the total markup. So a lot of vendors in the programmatic space may kind of not provide any transparency in terms of how much they're marking up the media before you ultimately paying for it. And there may be, several different vendors in between you and the demand-side platform that are taking part. So just ask for transparency in terms of how much you're ultimately paying on top of what the actual, what is actually getting paid to the publisher.
Some really great information there, Eythor. Programmatic, really, kind of the newest thing on utilizing all of that ad space out there and then making it so that it's more valuable with machine learning, so that we can better target the right demographic and get a better, cost per lead. Display advertising, we talked about that. Every company should be doing remarketing, display advertising. If somebody comes to your site, you want to keep them in that funnel. You want to keep them on as a customer. It's been great for us. We get, tens of thousands, over 50,000 visitors to our site each month. That audience and knowing the specific people that visited specific pages and what their intent was, and then serving ads to them based off of the services that are related to that, is really effective in generating leads. Now, all of this stuff takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. I won't lie to you, but that's why there's digital marketing agencies out there to do this type of work. We'd like to kind of close off with 6 steps to create your own strategy. So based off of this information, first consider where your demographic is, and then determine the platforms with the highest return. You don't need to be on every platform. Start by picking 1 to 3, and then prove that business model, right? The cost per click, the amount that you can spend there, how much is the cost per acquisition? As you get that into the business, what's your close rate? What's the value per customer, right? And so create a business model. And that's one thing that I just love about the paid side, that specific business model that you can measure and, you can continue to scale as you want to drive more leads or revenue for your business, right? So scaling on each of the platforms based off of the return that they're getting you. So keep that in mind. This is a very kind of systematic approach. And, the last thing I'd like to do today, we went a bit over, about 30 minutes over. I think we bit off quite a bit today. We wanted to give you just an overview of all the cool things that were happening out there. I think we'd be happy to discuss any of this stuff in more detail with you, should you be interested. But we did have quite a few questions that came in. So I'd like to start out just by taking a couple questions. And the first one that we have here is, which type of business models are best suited for LinkedIn ads? I'm going to let Ryan, if you'd like to go ahead and take that one, business models for LinkedIn ads.
Sure. The best business models for that would definitely be any kind of a direct business service, or we've had a lot of success with insurance industries and targeting of kind of HR level and HR decision makers when it comes to like employee benefits, services of that nature. So kind of the higher level services, certainly IT services and quite a few other items. But really what you want to focus there on are these real B2B services that aren't necessarily going to be, this is a way for you to connect with them and, through your ads. And also, once you get them into your funnel as a follower, you can also market to them through some of the other methods I talked about. But really that's what you want to focus on is the kind of the higher B2B client spheres.
Awesome. Okay, next question. How do you capture email addresses on your blog if you're blogging about digital marketing topics? I'm just going to take that one. It's a little bit outside of paid media, but I recommend firing pop-ups, potentially offering a guide. That's a really valuable piece of information that people would be interested in. You can have something called click triggers, where somebody basically clicks on a trigger. It has a pop-up that comes up, and then you're capturing them that way. There's a variety of different things you can do, but usually on a blog, you're going to see a basic sidebar field. You might have a pop-up that's fired, or you might have a static bar at the top, and that static bar at the top might also have some type of incentive. If you'd like to see some examples, click around our Ignite Visibility blog. We spend a ton of time capturing email addresses. Okay, well, the next question we have is, can you serve different ads to your remarketing audience versus display network ads? So can you serve different ads to your remarketing audience versus display network ads? Eythor, would you like to tackle that one?
Sure. So remarketing does provide the capability to do what's called dynamic remarketing, which serves a unit, an ad unit that contains multiple products based on which particular products the user viewed. So that is an ad type that is unique to remarketing. Although we have heard that this is something that Google is actually going to be releasing for prospecting as well. But then I think maybe to take this question to the next level is can we actually segment our display from our remarketing? And the answer is absolutely yes. We can certainly have different ads for our prospecting campaigns than we're running for our remarketing campaigns in terms of their content. But we also can do different ad formats that are only available for remarketing, and one of those is dynamic remarketing.
Awesome. And last question we have here. So what's the minimum email list size that you need to basically create a good audience, whether that be Facebook or LinkedIn or somewhere else? I mean, what's kind of the minimum size that you need? And Eythor, if you'd like to take that one too, that'd be great.
So really, I think 500 is probably going to be the bare minimum. But with 500, you have to consider that you're going to exhaust that audience pretty rapidly, but it would give you the ability to generate a lookalike audience from that, which would be good. But the bigger, the better. And as a rule of thumb, we ideally like to see 1,000, but I think we can go down as low as 500.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much, everybody. We really appreciate your time today. We put a pretty good amount of time into this webinar. We really hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure everybody has other things that they need to get to, so enjoy the rest of your day. At this point, we're going to go ahead and shut down. If you'd like to find out more information about Ignite Visibility, check out our blog. We're blogging there a couple times a week. We also have a YouTube channel that's updated pretty frequently, and we are guest blogging quite a bit around the web. There's some contact information for you on the screen right there. Have a great day, and see you online.